The Prince Goes Fishing. Chapter 4. Who would be a mermaid fair, singing alone, combing her hair? I would be a mermaid fair. Who is it loves me? Who loves not me? Low adown, and I should look like a fountain of gold, springing alone. Alfred Lord Tennyson. The idle roars rattled in their brackets, diverting the prince back from his reverie toward finding the fishing hole. The wind began to offer some resistance, but he began rowing again, the muscles on his back barely pulsing from the effort. Feeling the late sun and enjoying the sea smells, he dismissed the bittersweet reflections of home. As he looked around, the young fisherman realized that he had wrongly estimated the direction of the rock. Abruptly, he stopped the oars. Lael's distractions had caused him to veer quite a bit to the right, past the deep fishing pool. Just as he began to correct his course, he looked toward the rock and saw an astounding sight. In a large gap near the front, the rocks and reeds partially hid a young woman. Just as he looked her way, she saw him and moved from her hiding place back into the water. She was not quick enough to hide her tail from flashing above the surface as she slipped under the water. A mermaid! Such a sight was not so strange here as it would be in another place. Prince Lael heard of sightings of such creatures, yet these were rare and beyond his personal experience. Shocked and intrigued by the sight of her, the prince quickly resumed rowing and called, "Maiden, stay a moment. Hold, Lady of the Sea." She surfaced as though she heard him from under the water. Of course she had. All mermaids hear clearly in the watery region. He stopped rowing. The lovely creature stared at him for several moments. "Stay, please, miss. I beg you," he called to her. With her hand upon the rock, she continued to look curiously at him and then smiled slightly. He began to row toward her. She waved and then plunged into the gentle ripples. By the time he reached the rock and the deep hole into which she submerged, no sign of her remained. He greatly desired to dive in and search for her, but he knew better. Many times aboard ship, he heard the captain warn the sailors never to gaze at merpeople should they surface, nor he commanded, should anyone allow their eyes to dwell upon those under the water, lest they cast the spell of longing upon them. Countless stories recounted of men who stared, and coming under that spell, hurled themselves from their ships into the sea, never to appear again. The prince whispered aloud to himself, "Yet, why does this sea maiden have hair of a light reddish color? Why is she so unlike the black-haired and eerily fair mermaid people as I have heard spoken? What of her covering? In the place of the storied bare skin, she wore a turquoise-colored garment." Lael shook his head firmly. He determined to fish, to put thoughts of this mystery lady away. Yet then he wondered, have I stared too long? E'en now, so the spell of longing is betimes already upon me? The troubled prince reasoned that he only tried to speak with her. He sensed no evil thoughts invade his mind, or any accompanying guilt at his actions. The troubled prince reasoned that he only tried to speak with her. He sensed no evil thoughts invade his mind, or any accompanying guilt at his actions. Nevertheless, he confessed the mermaid's person and grace captured his imagination. Now he spoke aloud. "By the power of the Ancient One, I shall not let such fancies deceive me." With his oar he pushed off from the rock and took up his fishing net. A short distance from the rock he threw in the anchor. Then, casting his net, he began to fish. As the net hit the water, the prince glanced back at the island. Again he forced his thoughts to return to his true mission. That very morning the crew of the caravel found evidence of people now living in the wild, unsettled parts of the island. Small fire pits, earth ovens, and neatly crafted shelters covered with animal hides lay tucked away in the woods. One such shelter was replete with flowers transplanted by some lady longing for some beauty in the primitive constraints of her banishment. Some of these island dwellers, fleeing their besieged homes in the city, apparently had already removed the mainland through a jar. They had removed to the mainland through a jar. The passage was dangerous, but less risky than navigating through the inlet waters. The Lord Regent's spies constantly watched these inlets. Lael heard it rumored that the evil barbarians could see movement on top of or even under the water by day or by night. Such powers betrayed the stench of sorcery. Again his eyes moved to the rock and then out to sea. Yes, the caravel had set out from its anchorage. His father thought to take a short run to the mainland. This would give him, the soldiers, and the forest maidens time to scout the woodland away from the delta and ajar. The mainland remained unclaimed and ordinarily unoccupied. The crew could hunt any quarry from the woods for food. Also, harvesting forest plants and edibles was quite easy. The talking creatures had retreated deep into the woods and beyond. These reasoning creatures from ancient times must hide from the sorcerer of Ajar, who would kill anything, anywhere on sight, to spread upon his dinner table. The emperor decided to go ashore, leaving the ship with Ernest, his captain, and a crew of experienced sailors. His father's hope in appearing on the unoccupied mainland was that the men still loyal to the former king of Ajar would approach him. He would reveal the true purpose of his voyage and then invite the loyalists to join his army to defend and liberate the city of Ajar and the eastern islands. The company of 30 left coded signs and messages indicating their intentions and the location of the White Knight's altar. The older men in the resistance movement would remember their war councils held there from times past. The prince's father could not stay to search much longer. Secrecy was becoming increasingly difficult. Their final move must be soon and swift. Lael gave a sigh and stood up, tugging gently at the net. Nothing weighty enough warranted his bringing it up. He looked at the sun. In 2 or 3 hours, his father's ship would return for him. The prince gazed out into the blue-green waters. The surface was calm. His eyes scanned the area around the rock and then further out. He looked for her again. He could concentrate on little else since one glimpse of her. Shaking his head, he tried to throw off thoughts of the creature. After some minutes, he slowly drew up the net. He became excited by its heavy weight. There wriggled 2 very large capitani and a few smaller fish. "Whee!" he shouted in satisfaction. These were the biggest he'd ever seen. They would be a great supper since each weighed at least 15 pounds. After putting them on a string, the prince let down his net again. His own appetite quickly returned. The sun moved closer to the horizon, and he could already taste the perfectly cooked, white, flaky meat. Yes, indeed, the men would be glad of such a treat. Perhaps there would be more to come. The fisherman's mood lightened as he grabbed his sea bag for some food. In it was a set of hunting clothing worn only by royal youth of the court. Lael's mother, the Empress Judith, neatly wrapped and carefully placed his gold coronet there herself. "There must be a hunt, and my son should look his princely office," she said. The prince knew his mother worried greatly about danger ahead and her son's possibly fatal dedication to victory. "Dear mother, my queen," he said softly, drifting back to the affectionate address of his childhood. His eyes continued to scan the waters. "I would, mother, you pray for me now, in this moment. The present battle within my heart over the vision of the mermaid is far greater than the one that shall be fought outwardly with a sword. I pray that I shall not betray myself to my longings. Oh, what a sight my eyes have seen! Only the Ancient One can protect me from desiring so mythical a beauty as she. But I fear my impatient heart has caused my eyes to play tricks with me." He shook his head and drew out of the bag some dried fruit and hard bread wrapped neatly in a cloth. He would need a small lunch to hold him until the caravel and its crew returned to enjoy this bountiful catch. Smiling at the thought, he began to sing with measured feeling an old mariner's tune. It was a ballad of love. As he sang, it carried out over the silent inlet waters. With the singing came a calm within. He mused, "The White Knight will not abandon me to my untoward heart. I would be true, Lord Ariel." With that, he leaned back and began to chew his food with renewed cheer. His youthful spirits could never long be daunted. Such was his temperament, a gift inherited from his father. He suddenly sat still, ceasing movement. What was that sound? Could it be singing, or was it just the wind playing upon the waters? Raising himself, he remained very quiet and listened attentively. He heard it again. There was no mistaking it for any breeze. It was a voice singing without words, the very melody he had just sounded forth himself. It returned like a tardy echo, except it was the lilting voice of a soprano, singing in a humming tone. Lael had drifted a distance from the rock, but looking back at it, he saw her. "'Tis the same creature again," he quickly surmised. "She be neither black-haired nor white-skinned as the mermaids of legend. Indeed, the maiden's hair was light and reddish, and her turquoise garment glistened in the sun. The mermaid's arms and face were a golden tan. She hath been oft on the surface," he surmised. The smitten prince blinked several times, certain it must be a vision. Yet her song went on, forcing him to look again. The maiden's voice came strong and clear now. She made no attempt to hide herself. Lael sat up straight. "The lady looks my way. 'Tis no vision. Surely she is real."